It's all right. Hey, everyone.
Live.
Hey, just like a little raw mix over here before we get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Design Unfiltered.
Yes. We still don't know the number that we're up to. Yeah. Or how many we've done of these yet.
We're in season 3.
Okay.
For season 3. It was a cliffhanger season last season. Now
we're back.
We're back, yes. And we're going to give a formal introduction of our esteemed guest in a moment. But Louis Marino, we're so happy that you're here.
Thank you,
welcome
mate.
to Design Unfiltered.
Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting
me. Okay, I won't do that anymore. I did just get one in there.
It's fun. You got to
bring it on, Jared. I love an applause.
Okay.
It's good. It's good. Yeah, so we're all just going to get settled. So when people come in, you can tell us where you're calling in from and all that good stuff.
Yeah, we love that.
Yeah, right.
All right. Yeah.
Carolina,
welcome.
Hi. Welcome.
Yeah. Definitely jump in there and share that you're here because so many of you get to all connect after this as well. So, yeah. Oh, look at that! The fan club is here too.
Oh,
Mahara.
Mahara.
Love it.
Awesome. And I love how it's like this rolling. It's like a snowball effect. It's like we had Mahara on 2 weeks ago, and then she's like, "You got to talk to Louis Marino. He's great." And so we talked to you, and you're great. So we have you in. So it's lovely.
Yeah, you're in the hot seat now.
All right. Oh, I love always the variants. Houston, Texas, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Both places I haven't been to. So I'm working on it. Working on it. Kind of moved from Australia straight to New York, and then that was it.
You've been to California. You went to the Stigma conference, right?
I did, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So
right. You've seen the fairer coast.
That's work related though, right? You gotta go for like pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah. Alexander.
Hey, Alex.
Yeah.
Right on. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Yay. Awesome. Well, we're so glad everybody's here. And we're just going to do some chat and chew with Louis for a while. And then we're going to open it up to questions. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat at any point during the live stream.
Yep.
And we'll get to as many as we can. Oh, wow. Peter from Scotland. Nice.
Thanks, mate.
Right on.
Woohoo.
Sweet. So Louis, just to kind of get to know you before we do the formal introduction as people kind of filter in, tell us a little bit about, I feel like you're so on the zeitgeist of, fashion and culture and music, kind of based on your background, but it's also just who you are. What are some interesting reads that you've read lately? I think you're into biographies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast. This is great. I'm always happy to share my story and interact with other folks that love creativity and live in this field, and biographies is an area that it's so funny. Like I would get into historical fiction and sometimes it's mostly nonfiction that really gets me excited, and in particular biographies, because I like reading about people that have lived interesting lives and what made them successful, or what their definition of what success was or is, if they're alive. A couple of the books that I've read recently that I really love I love Walter Isaacson's biographies. I think he's the best in the business, and his biography on Leonardo da Vinci was just an extraordinary documentation of probably the most curious person that ever lived.
Wow.
And it just that really spoke to me and my sense of curiosity, and the fact that he just delved into things that he may not have been an expert in, but then became an expert. He just wanted to, he was just gobbling up information. So that was a that was a biography I read recently that was really great. And then from the music side of things, there was a book by what was his name? James Kaplan, 3 Shades of Blue, and it's about Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Bill Evans, and it was basically, there's this famous album called Birth of the Cool that came out in the late 50s, I think, and it just centers around their lives and what led to that historic session. What I learned about that was, people lived, these artists also had difficult lives. They dealt with addiction, they dealt with racism, they dealt with New York in the 50s, which was just a hotbed of creativity and culture. So just how did they come up with this magical album? In my cases, it was literally like, it was just the right place, right time. And the fact that they practiced their craft so often, their muscle memory kind of just that practice dissolved, and then you're in the thing and making art, which was pretty cool. And then third was a book called The Code. It's basically the history of Silicon Valley by Margaret O'Mara. And it basically, she goes all the way back to like the late 50s, early 60s, when Silicon Valley was on the East Coast, and how Stanford University changed their entire curriculum to attract people from technology over to the West Coast. So she starts all the way back there, and then she ends up like basically like a little after COVID, with all the
where it's going to.
Wow, how cool was that? I grew up in the Bay Area, so it's like I was just surrounded by, Silicon Valley ever since I was a kid. I mean, it was a lot of orchards back then, it certainly has changed a lot since, but, my neighbor worked for Lockheed Martin, and there was Moffett Field, and there was like a lot of defense, and then a lot of computer stuff.
Defense played a big role in it. Yeah,
but I didn't realize that it actually got transported over from the East Coast originally.
I love how all that stuff, just creativity is the through line. But I mean, you're a designer by trade, by craft, but reading books about music or historical books about creative people, just how much that informs still being a designer today in the modern era. I love pulling that inspiration from things outside of the immediate craft too. I think it's not so obvious sometimes. We forget about that.
Oh, that's true. It makes sense because designers, we look at things a certain way and we make connections, and sometimes those connections can be from disparate areas. And what's the through line? What's the narrative? When whether you're building, it could be building anything. And what makes it really important is that you get a chance to kind of explore different parts of people's lives, get in their shoes, walk in their shoes for a while. And, as a designer, that's something I've always been. That's probably why I like reading biographies so much. Like I like to observe and soak in other people's lives. And it enriches mine as well.
And it's so interesting to see how different people's paths. Like I read, I think it's called The Work of Your Life by Stephen. Oh God, I'm forgetting the name of the author, but it was this beautiful book talking about how Gandhi was actually a failed lawyer in England and came to South Africa really and started his whole career public speaking, but he was a terrible public speaker at first. And then you see, the movie Gandhi opens with his funeral, which is just millions of people just all through the streets. And it's just incredible. And it kind of gives you hope too, where you're like, oh, I really suck at this one thing, but like, maybe I could be really good at it. Or if it's just, the right conditions exist, you could find a way.
I think it's great too, because some people, the moment comes to them and it's what they do about it. Right. So, and it's certainly like in entertainment, but in everything, like there's that first time you get on stage, there's that first time you perform in front of a live audience. There's that first time, like from a professional sense, you have to give a presentation to a group of clients. And that could be frightening. It is frightening. You walk into the conference room and it's like 20 degrees colder because of you're trying to figure out everybody's, are they going to be into
read
it?
The room real quick.
Read the room. And, you notice their eyes and maybe some people are getting bored and you start worrying, spot in your mouth, so it's that's where, people's careers get made, where you fail and learn and grow and evolve. So yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. I feel like we're like in the middle of the conversation already. This is great.
No, kick us off. Give us some background on Louis as well.
Yeah. So I'd like to formally introduce our guest. Louis Marino is a design executive with over 30 years of experience building and scaling design organizations across music, fashion, sports, banking, payments, retail, and consumer electronics. He started his career at the fashion house Donna Karan. Am I saying that right? Donna Karan, right? Donna Karan.
Yeah.
Great. Collaborating with world-class photographers and creative directors, then spent a decade in the music industry, helping shape the visual worlds of major artists and album launches for names like Mariah Carey, Bon Jovi, Fall Out Boy, Kiss, The Killers, LL Cool J, and Chuck D, and many more. From there, he moved on to the agency world at top-rated agencies RGA and AKQA, working with brands like Nike, Verizon, Beats by Dre, Diageo, and Samsung, and then into global enterprises. You really cover the waterfront, Louis.
Yeah, just going for it.
And then you went to Cognizant, where you led over 2,000. Yes, there is that extra zero there. You led to over 2,000 designers and researchers across 35 countries, and most recently at Visa, where he built and scaled their design advisory practice. Louis believes the future belongs, I know, right? Very, very feeling extra lucky to have you, Louis.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Louis believes the future belongs to leaders who hire for adaptability over credentials. Yes, we will definitely dive into that. He calls this hiring for SWANs, so SWANS. So S for smart, W for works hard, A for ambitious, and N for nice, not to be overlooked. And believes that when you get the people right, scale takes care of itself and creates giants who eventually surpass you. An avid reader of biographies and a mixed media artist, he lives in Montclair, New Jersey with his family. Welcome to Design Unfiltered, Marino.
What a bio.
No.
You've been out there. You've been going for it, mate.
I know. Wow. So I'm sure people ask you about the music industry all the time, so we won't put too much focus on it, but we would love to hear a little bit of your journey. How did you go from fashion to music and then to like large enterprise, leading these humongous teams at these large enterprise organizations? And then kind of as a follow-up question is like, how did that early work inform what you're doing in these large enterprises?
Great question. And I'll try to distill this long career in as short as I can. So, I started my career in above-the-line advertising when I graduated school. So I was working in agencies like J. Walter Thompson, Margiotta, Fertitta, and Weiss. I interned at a great agency called Kirshenbaum and Bond. And had always been interested in both visual and actual writing, storytelling. So I was both like kind of a copywriter and an art director, which was always difficult because you kind of had to pick. And so being a combination of the two, you kind of had to choose your path. But how I got into Donna Karan was just simply like, part of these, building network story is I had an old classmate that was there. And my freelance gig was winding down, and I had coffee with him, and he was like, "You should check out Donna Karan. It's really great over there, and people are really cool, and Donna's a blast to work for." And so went over there, showed my portfolio, and started working at Donna. And she had an in-house team, and I really got a chance to work with a founder, visionary. And I learned a lot about visual storytelling from that experience. But then from there, ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to design album covers and do album packaging. I didn't even realize that you could even have a career in that. I just wanted to do it, and did a lot of door knocking. This is pre-internet, pre-Google. I had to kind of knock on doors and make phone calls and connect with people. And I connected with the head of creative at Sony, who I showed my book to. And then maybe a month later, I got a call from somebody else from another label, Mercury Records, and she said, yeah, this guy recommended that I speak to you, which was really amazing because that means I left an impression. And then that parlayed into like a 10-year career in music.
Wow.
But then I wanted to, you know, again, explore that, you know, storytelling piece and, you know, experiential marketing. You know, there was sort of this kind of nascent product design kind of bubbling up. I started moving more into agencies and consulting firms. So I, you know, working with RGA and AKQA were just great, great ways for me to learn about how I market myself as a creative person, but more importantly, how can I take things, you know, other aspects of what I can do that were untapped and really explore those, especially around the world between digital and physical spaces, which again was new. So there were a lot of people trying to figure out how that worked. Technology wasn't 100% there yet. So there was a lot of trial and error. But again, like, you know, these were areas that I didn't have a lot of samples in my book for. So it was really important to find those people that saw what was in my work and saw the potential of what could be.
Yeah.
And then, you know, going to Cognizant was another huge leap because it was going from an agency world where, you know, you're doing sprints and you're doing kind of, you know, creative things, but not seeing them all the way through production and learning true end-to-end product delivery work at a huge scale. And like you mentioned, Joanne, the team size was just massive. So again, it's like, and it didn't start out that way. It started out with me managing a small team. And then as I grew within the company and as we were kind of coalescing all of these offerings in the digital business unit, there were these massive groups, both nearshore, offshore delivery centers. There were at pretty much every geo you can think of globally. And again, just learning how to work with clients, you know, on huge enterprise endeavors. And then from there, going to a brand. I've always wanted to work at a brand and going client side, as we say in the agency world. And Visa came calling, and it was a great opportunity to help build and scale an advisory practice that, you know, until I got there, they were kind of giving the work away for free, and they wanted to monetize it. And they wanted to, you know, create revenue streams and client influence and build deeper relationships and use that market intelligence for our core product. And so that's kind of, you know, where I ended up. Hopefully I didn't move too quickly, but that's sort of like
it's huge. A lot to condense in, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that in that story. I mean, there was just so many stretch moves that you made, right? Like to go from fashion into music. And I, you know, when we had our little huddle the other day, you were talking about working with a major recording artist, and all of a sudden you're making a fragrance with them, you know, and like you're meeting a nose and, you know, figuring out how to do a fragrance. It's not like you actually had that in your background. It wasn't like, oh, you've done this before, so you're the only logical choice to do this kind of a role. But I like what you said about, you know, finding people that will champion you, right? That know, like the Sony guy that championed you to Mercury Records, for instance. How does one, because I feel like, and Erica and Jared, I'm sure you probably feel the same way or hear the same thing from candidates, so people that are on the job market will say, I'll apply to these roles, but unless I have 5 years, 10 years of experience doing exactly this role and exactly this industry, I'm being passed over. Because these companies seem to be looking for a very specific fit in this particular market. And maybe Louis, maybe you could talk to us about if there's anybody on this, you know, call that relates to that, who feels like they're, you know, that they're trying to be pigeonholed into something. What is a way to get out of that? And how does somebody find a champion, and who could a champion be?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm sure pretty much anybody that would be listening to this has gone through something like that in their life, right? Where, you know, mentioned before, there's always going to be that day where you've started from nothing, but you actually don't. You have that experience doing other things. And what was really important for me was to identify people that I thought had enough grasp on the enterprise that they were in to understand what the role of overall creativity and the power of design can bring to an organization other than a look and feel or a particular aspect of the enterprise. That what I can bring to the table was much more kind of expansive. And so I did a number of things, like getting into the music business. I would just do mock album covers, and like I actually create the thing that I didn't have the experience in, but I wanted to show, you know, through my talents, through just technically as a practitioner, I know how to translate what I do here into another form. And the same thing went for product design. And it's not, you know, and it's not easy, but sometimes you just have to show people who maybe aren't as visual or maybe can't walk that bridge. You kind of have to build the bridge for them. But every career pivot, I found somebody in the organization who believed in me, and we're looking for somebody like me. I mean, there were a few times where I've gotten roles where the hiring manager would say, because I would, you know, no problem saying, hey, look, I don't have that kind of experience. Yeah. Their answer was always, well, that's why we're hiring you, because you do all these other things that we don't know about. That you can teach us. And then that sense of reciprocity comes into play and you're both learning. And that's sort of like the ultimate win, you know, win-win. Everybody's learning, everybody's growing together. And you know, it's great that way. Yeah.
It's, I think why people get so hesitant to hire someone who's not like glaringly obvious for the role is risk. I find a lot of the time they're trying to de-risk that hire. I mean, you've been a hiring manager too, right? Many of your time, so you get to have your own lens on it too. But you can't make too many risky hires. You can't make any risky hire. Like, you've got a risk tolerance when it comes to hiring someone. And I just feel like in the design space, where, you know, maybe some places are getting a bit lazy and just really having no tolerance for risk. And if it's not glaringly obvious why this person's done exactly the thing they need them to do, they're going, oh, feels like a risk. It's like, I think you're missing out on some great people. And yeah, I love you talking about bridging those gaps at times earlier in your career in music. Okay, I haven't done this thing, but here's me practicing that craft, and here's me showing my take on it, and here's me making up for experience maybe I don't have commercially, but I'm doing it. I think that this year, 2026, is the time that is finally so back in vogue for designers. Yeah. It's
100%,
which is awesome. It's good.
Yeah, and you touch on something really important, which is when you hire somebody as a hiring manager, when you hire somebody, even if they fit the job description perfectly, you're still taking a risk. You just don't know until they're in the enterprise, until they're working with other people. And, you know, there's no way of faking that until they're actually in the job, because they don't know how the enterprise operates really. And so, like, if you do things like during interviews, you know, there's sometimes, you know, like I've had this, and I've also given this, like, take-home projects for you to try, or whiteboarding sessions you have with the people that you'd be working with. And you know, those can be good for certain things, but at the end of the day, risk and like the other part is trust. Like, do I trust this person? Do I get the sense that this person is somebody that I can really, you know, work with and handle high stress, and, you know, and maybe there's some indecision, maybe there's some conflict. How can I work in a team? Because this is a team sport, right? And so most of the time, and when you're hiring for a leader, you want to also make sure that person is an advocate for the people that they're working for, because at the end of the day, those folks are looking to you to be that bulwark against something that may be happening in the enterprise. Like, I don't know if we should be doing this. You want to give them the confidence that you're going to go to bat for them, and really help them out. So that's really great, Jared, what you said.
And is there a way that so for people that might be listening that are maybe, you know, mid-career, maybe they're leaders, Is there any advice you could give them, Louis, around like how do they find a champion? Like how do they develop those relationships? How do they win a champion over to their side? Does that person have to be in design? What are some tips you could give?
First off, they don't have to be in design.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, like a lot of times I would find people that were somewhere in the enterprise. Sometimes they were running the whole company. Sometimes they were CEOs. Sometimes they were running a business unit. And sometimes they were the head of design or whatever that the top position was there. And, I would use, platforms like LinkedIn. I would use my network of, hey, there's this company I'm interested in working at. Do I know anybody there? Have I worked with somebody there that can kind of get me in for an exploratory meeting? And to be honest, I many times have just cold called people, like, again, in LinkedIn, it's sending them a message saying like, look, so it's like I'm dropping into their DMs like, hey, I kind of like your background. I love your story. And I would just love to grab a virtual coffee with you if you have the time. And I've learned that very few people would refuse that. There was this great video that Steve Jobs gave. He gave many of these little videos. You can find it on YouTube, where he talked about when he was like, I think it was like 11 years old, he called one of the founders of Hewlett Packard looking for like some part that he was putting together for a project. And the guy was in the telephone book. This is obviously a long time ago, but like the fact that like, he was like, look, that separates people from, actually doing something in their careers to people who are kind of laying back, expecting the door to knock. So people will always appreciate the fact that you're reaching out, and you'd be surprised how many people will make the time. And sometimes it's 10 minutes, but that can lead to a very long relationship. Yeah. That makes sense.
I want to clarify a little bit with you, like what a champion is to an extent too, because like what they do for you and how they can potentially help. And it sounds like in some of these instances, that champion might just be someone that internally floats your name to the most relevant, if they're non-design, your champion, and they float your name to the design team. Say, hey, met this great guy, seems like the chops are really there. I think we should speak to them. They're just getting you in the room sometimes, or they're just being that kind of small advocate to give you a shot to get the job. I don't want to mistake it where a champion is someone that blindly just says, oh no, Louis is great, just hire him. It's like, no, it's not that easy. It doesn't work that way. No. They just, you're still getting the job. And as the individual that maybe finds your champion, that champion's not going to just offer you a role. They're going to hopefully offer you the chance to get the job yourself. So you still got to be prepared. You still got to be able to back it. But sometimes all we need is that little leg up, like, just get me in the room, coach. I'll show them what I got. And I think that's all, that's all you got to ask from the champion. But yeah, maybe that's some of the things that your champions have done over the years. It just could be a small act that resulted in you getting, the shot you needed.
Most of the time it was literally, I can get you in the room with somebody.
Right.
I can, and it's usually like, there's that old saying about, being prepared and, how that translates into luck. And if you're prepared, if you study the role, if you studied like the organization really well and understand its history, you have to do a fair amount of homework. And then even the people that you are being introduced to, learn about them, know about them.
Yeah.
Find their story and use that in your conversation with them. Because if you find that tether between you and them, not only will you find that next champion or mentor or possible mentor for you, you'll also be able to find those people that be like, you know what, we're not looking for a role right now, but we may be working on something.
Yeah.
These are seeds that you're planting most of the time, and I do that all the time. Like like I said, it's reciprocal too. I had people reach out to me quite often asking about my thoughts on a particular subject. I'm more than happy to do that. And the only thing is, it's like reciprocity, like it's that karma give and get. Like, as much as I've asked for help, I have given help to people.
And sometimes you don't get it. The I can't say that word. Reciprocity. Reciprocity. Sometimes when you give it, you don't always get it back from that same source.
No.
Right? And rarely do you actually, right? So it's like you might be giving up. Like I feel like I do this when I'm in recruiter mode, and I might be like, oh my God, I'm so busy. I can only talk to people for whom I have an open role. So I just get my blinders on. It's all about the work. I feel like when I'm less busy, I'm just like, oh, we'll take a half an hour call with somebody or a 20-minute call with somebody that I haven't caught up with in a long time. And I feel so great when I see their face on Zoom, because maybe I haven't seen them for 5 years or 10 years, right? But it's just, but it's, in this industry, you're not interviewing at a company, you're interviewing with people. And it's like, people is the thing that makes it go round. So I think, and I find that when I do have those kind of like, kind of non-goal oriented conversations, and it's just us connecting as people, maybe I'm giving some advice, maybe they're giving me some insight into what their experience is like in the market. It's still informative, but I feel like that's just so generative. I feel like other things start to come in, right? Like maybe not from that specific person, or maybe it does. Maybe an introduction does come from that person because you're back on their radar. But I think it's just it's very circular.
Huge. And
hard these days.
No, I mean, like when I would, even when I'm not looking for a role, or maybe one's coming in the future, I'm always mining my network. I'm always looking at people and profiles and backgrounds, because they'll inspire me to maybe add something to that job description that I wouldn't have otherwise. Or think of people that I've met in the past that think, hey, this person could be good for that role. And to your point, that may never materialize, but it's sort of not the point. Like, I don't go into those things expecting that person to be my mentor, to be my champion, to do all the work for me, and I'm going to get a gig every time I do it. Like, it's like, probably like most of the time, you don't. It's not about like getting the role. It's about learning to work with people and introduce you to your life and what you stand for and what's important to you. Whether you're a recruiter, whether you're a candidate, whether you're in the enterprise and just interested in talking to folks about things that are related to your field that you can possibly learn from. I find it's really important to make the time to do that. As busy as this world is, and like we're saying, like some people are just slammed. Like, I'm booked all day today. Like, people's calendars are crazy, just managing that stuff. So being able to just take that time to forge those relationships, it's a long-term thing. It's a career-long thing. It isn't something that happens overnight.
Totally.
You're living proof of the reward being worth the effort. You made those efforts over all those years, and it's led to the rewards that you've had with all the opportunities that you've worked in, the teams you've run. I'm a big fan and proponent of rewarding the effort, and I know for designers, so much effort all the time, the work, keeping up with tooling these days, being creative in what is these crazy schedules. So much respect. And then, I love nothing more to see someone rewarded for their efforts when they're putting it out there. Any stage of career, early stage through to being in the game, for many years, it's like those efforts should get the reward. And I think that they do more often than not. They always do. So,
right. And you never stop learning. There's a lot of talk in the industry about like, no matter how long you've been in the industry or how high up you get in the enterprise, never lose your craft, never lose that sense of what got you doing the career to begin with. And, just learning how to find the things that had you fall in love with what you do to begin with. Like I never wanted to do anything else in my life. I consider myself very lucky in that, like, even when I was a kid, I was designing logos. I was doing stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. It's just something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that there was a way that you can make money on it, and have a career. So, it's that, but also, it never stops. And I remember there were times in my career where I was like, man, like I've done all this stuff, like, and then they want me to audition again for the role. It's like,
Right.
yeah, yeah, they do, and
Yeah.
you just kind of have to do it, and it could be really annoying at times, but you're not them, and so you kind of have to meet people where they're at, and if they, sometimes if you have to bring them over to where you are and show them, then so be it. If not, then maybe that role is not right for you. If it's like you have to kind of pick and choose your spots. And then also feel free to push back a little bit and say, like, well, let's reframe this assignment that you're giving me, and let me add a little something to it, or maybe alter it a little bit. And you're also taking a chance in doing that. But it also, all of this is done to make sure they want to see how you think. And to problem solve together in a room, kind of like if the four of us were working on an assignment together and we're coming from different places, we don't really know each other that well. This is a sense to say, like, how do we vibe? Like, how do we actually, what's the energy in the room? And that's really important. And like I was mentioning in the intro, like you may not have the exact skills that I'm looking for, but you have the attitude. Right. Skills you can learn. Attitude is something that takes a long time, sometimes never, to develop. And that willingness to learn new things is, I'll never stop feeling that way, because I'm a curious person. I always want to learn how things work.
And what do you see as a hiring manager? I think that's a really interesting point, that you're hiring for attitude, and that's what you're looking for. Are there any, because I feel like so many designers will say, I've been sending out my portfolio to so many places, I'm competing with so many people. How do I rise above the noise, right? Like, what's the signal to noise ratio with this?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you've seen in portfolios that gives you, because they might not have the chance, I mean, they have to first get in the room, right? And then they can show attitude in a real-time way. Are there any signals in a portfolio or even a resume or work experience that show you that this person might have the right attitude? Like, is there anything that they can do to have a better chance of getting in that room?
I think the first thing I look at in a portfolio is this is their chance to tell their story without them being in the room. So you're going to show me in your portfolio how well you're able to get to the point of what you did, why you did it, why it's important, what the business impact was, what part of it, the organization you were in. Was it a live project? Was it something that didn't work out, or was it a pilot? Like, all of those things, like, and it could have taken you a year, 18 months to develop this thing, and you've got like 30 seconds to
get it across.
And that's right. And it's and the methods of being able to do that are really up to the individual. Like, what is the best way you can express this? And if it's done in a really short period of time in terms of being able to see it, that's great. If it needs to be unpacked a little bit more, then unpack it. Let people know, like, this is something I'm going to deep dive into.
Yeah.
But portfolios that speak to me are ones that I get a sense of their storytelling. I know that's an overused word, but just the ability to be able to take something complex and distill it down to its essence. What is that key insight that you found in this problem that you're trying to solve, and how did you solve it? Those are the things that speak to me, and then I bring them into the room and we have more of a conversation about certain things. But I also, beyond the portfolio, once you're actually talking to the hiring manager, they want to learn how you got to where you arrived. And what is it that you're looking for in your next adventure? Why this company? So you're kind of given the opportunity to interview them as much as they you.
Totally.
I work with a lot of people who often ask me what to do if they don't know the business outcome or have a metric actually to show, like in their resume, whether they were in an agency and not really that close to the end client product team and everything. Obviously, it is about storytelling, and I always tell people to add a little personality and humor, like the way that they share it. I think recruiters, we always like to laugh a little bit throughout our day. But how would they be able to, I don't know, show something or even, I think we talked about this the other day too, if they have work that they're not allowed to show. What do you recommend?
So there's a lot there, right? I'll start with you're not allowed to show work. I think everybody that listens to this has a story like that, right?
Yeah.
I have this great thing, I can't show it. There are certain things that you can do, like password protect your portfolios is something a lot of people do, and I think that's perfectly fine. You're showing an effort to stage gate it. You're not just like sending it out to everybody. You can anonymize things to the best of your ability. If there's something that's super, if something hasn't been released yet and is still in development, that's the only case where I would side with the enterprise. Like, hey, you're giving away a trade secret. If something's not released. So you do your best to anonymize it and talk more generally about the thing that you were working on, especially now with AI. Things are moving so quickly that in 6 months from now, we'll be having a different conversation about your different case studies. And then what was the other question that you asked?
About like business impact if someone doesn't have a metric to share.
Yeah. So that's don't show data that you can't back up. So don't make something up. If you don't know, you don't know. That's cool. Nobody's expected to know everything, especially if you're on the agency side and you're just not exposed to those metrics. Or if it's a new product, you just do the best you can to show intent. And then when it comes to business impact, there are many ways you can cut it. It could be technically the adoption rate, it could be the retention rate, it could be, simple things like that, or it could be, this is what the enterprise wanted out of this thing, and this is the way we did it, and we're setting ourselves up for success because we feel like we solved the problem. What that business outcome is still ongoing. And sometimes if you have things that are live and you do have access to data, make sure you update it to the best of your ability as to what you worked on it, but never fake the data. Don't do that, because if you're asked specific questions about it and you don't know, that could be a ding.
Yeah.
And sometimes even just sharing like data about the company that's publicly known. But like, for instance, we work with like a large food delivery app company, and they have 30 million active monthly users. And sometimes designers from that company doesn't put that in their portfolio. And it's like, no, that's great. Like, show
No, yeah, totally. 100%. You should totally do that.
Yeah. So you might not have like the end result of this particular project, but if you can show, hey, I'm working at this really high visibility place, or it has this many users, or it's breaking into this new market, whatever it might be. There's other kind of soft things that might not be hard metrics, but that could be
like customer satisfaction, I feel like, or NPS scores.
NPS scores are publicly available pretty much, and you can always search that out, and those are just out there. And then what you were talking about, Joanne, is also good to help anonymize certain projects you worked on. If you say, like, in the case like you were mentioning before, it could be a large consumer electronics company, or it could be a leading national issuer in the US, or a multinational bank, or a payments network. I mean, you can do those things, and people can kind of fill in the blanks and be like, oh, that kind of looks and feels like, and then it's in your resume if it's, you know what I mean? Like, oh, they worked there and they did this thing. Yeah. I've never seen anybody like reject that.
Yeah. Designers are especially in a portfolio, I think they're the sum of their parts. Sometimes it's like, oh, I don't have metrics for this, but maybe I do for that. And I can't show this, but I can show. It's like, it's okay because you're the sum of your parts. I've had this conversation with design leaders many times who are hiring, and sometimes had to push back and say, hey, I need you to be a bit of a detective here, and like, let's find the reasons why we're going to meet this person. And not every single case study on its own is going to be a perfect 100% signal of why I should meet this person. But we see some great signal here, something visual. We see something here where, they really moved a number here, but wasn't like a visually stunning project. But the sum of all these parts, we get a complete signal. It's like, that's someone to speak to. So, I just think that designers just remember, like, you don't have to nail it all in every single case study. They just should provide a signal that can be added up to give, a bit more of a complete story, hopefully.
Totally. And you're working within design systems for companies. Like, you can't change the design system of major corporations to suit your own need. So yeah, there are going to be some things where it's like, no, it's not the hottest looking thing you've ever seen, but you kind of have to look past, like you said, Jared, you have to look past that and look at the problem solving part of it. And again, find that, what was that thing that you found to help solve that problem? That lets you know how you think. And I love what you said, that sometimes you do have to push back, because as a hiring manager, I've been caught in as much as I've been talking about this, I've been caught going, no, I need somebody that needs to do this thing. And there was a great story that, I wound up hiring a head of research that I passed over in the beginning. Like, I looked at their background and I was like, I don't know. And the recruiter, our internal recruiter, said, look, they wrote this note. They really want to advocate for themselves. Would you give them a chance? Sure. And they wrote this beautiful letter, really outlining why they felt
found a champion in your internal recruiter.
Found a champion. They brought them in. They went through the process, and they wound up getting the role. And that's something that reminds me that you have to. This is and again, you're doing a full-time job, or you're doing this. You're trying, but being able to recognize that somebody's like really into what they're doing and want to prove to you, give them a chance at that plate. I guarantee.
I love that story.
Widen the aperture.
Give them a chance. Give them a chance.
Totally.
In terms of, I want to switch gears a little bit. And for anybody who's logged in, please feel free to ask your questions in the chat. So this is your golden opportunity to ask Louis your burning questions. And Erica, do you have to go?
I have to go. I'm so sorry, but this was great. I feel like we need a part 2. It's been lovely.
I agree.
I'll talk to you guys later.
Bye. I wanted to ask you, because you've worked in so many different environments, and now your most recent role at Visa was a huge, enterprise legacy company. What does it take to parlay past experience? Maybe it's agency experience, maybe it's startup experience, maybe it's your music career experience. What skills are uniquely suited for a large enterprise company like that? Like, what should people be trying to skill up on? And that could be soft skills, it could be actual logistical skills, but what makes it or breaks it at a big enterprise company?
Wow, that's a big question. I think learning how to coalition build within a large, complex organization where you have different people in different parts of the world doing different things, sometimes competing, sometimes this is great, but has nothing to do with my job. How do you get people interested in something that you're doing writ large? The old school term was politicking. You're just doing old school politicking. And it's the same as I was saying about building your network professionally. It's getting to know different people in the enterprise. The same exact thing I was saying before. When you land a new role, meet as many people as you can. Do a virtual coffee, or if they're in the office with you, have a coffee with them. Regardless of where they sit in a large organization, they could be in government affairs, they can be in human resources, they could be in sales, they could be in you're learning more about the company and how it operates from their perspective. That'll better help you in the future for when you do need that connection, that person may or may not be able to help you, or at least inform you. These are the people you need to talk to if you want to get this thing done. And I just can't understate the importance of that. And then, people start talking about you, like, oh yeah, you should check out, Jared's really great. He's a really great guy. Like, I don't know exactly what he does, but people seem to love him. And then before you know it, you're getting brought into meetings that you never thought you would ever be brought into. Hey, can I pick your brain about something? And you're like, yeah, that's a treat. That's a treat when somebody does that. Because again, you're just getting yourself more known. And, I've been caught in this in my career. Sometimes you get, tunnel vision because you're so focused in your area. and that part starts to atrophy. So when the organization changes, as organizations like large complex organizations are ought to do, they definitely do that a lot. Sometimes you can get caught in a riptide of, well, I don't have, like, all I know is this, and then this got defunded, and now now I'm sort of like in a raft in an ocean.
Yeah.
The more connected you are, the more you're able to parlay what you do into different things, or maybe find another internal champion to help fund what you're doing if that goes away. And it doesn't stop. It's not just like a leadership role. When you are, no matter what level you're in, again, I've never found somebody who wasn't willing to talk to another person. And then there's also a lot of ERGs at companies, like, different interests that you have, or, just as you are as a human being, you can belong to different clubs and organizations. Those are really great ways to help people. I mean, they curate from all over the company. That's kind of like done for you, and they have events and stuff like that. So that's another great way to be able to kind of, dig more into the company that you work for.
Nice. And in terms of, like, I'm just getting into robot brain, like, logistically, how do you form these connections? Are you having virtual coffees with, like, different people? Like, you're seeing the same person again, like, every 6 months, or is there a certain kind of cadence that you think works the best?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just a one-off, right? And then other times it's recurring. You just kind of have to feel it out for what it is. If it's just, I want to know about a particular thing, and you just meet them, so that way you can see them in the hallway in the office, you give them a wave. And sometimes it's, hey, can we meet every quarter, or can we meet every month? And again, those ERGs are really good too, because they usually have events that are pretty, that happen pretty, regularly. So you can tap into that and just be plugged into that. But yeah, again, these are seeds that you're planting. You don't know whether or not that's a one and done, or it's just like building a relationship with any other human being. Sometimes you just get it wrong.
I forget how to do it.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
Right. I feel like everything is so virtual now, but I think that story that you told at the beginning of our session of, like, you going and knocking on doors and cold calling people, there's something about, I mean, that would be not done today, but there's something about that, like the direct connection and making those human connections, that is so powerful, right? So it's like you actually meeting people in these ERGs, or like having coffee with your people in your office.
Yeah.
But I think also just like going to events, either that are in your sphere, like maybe they're design related events, but maybe it's something that's totally different. Like maybe it's like a meetup group and you're meeting a bunch of hikers, but you just never know who you're going to meet. And I think people
there's hiking, there's religious groups, there's political oriented, there's every cut of what you are as a human. There's going to be a group, or you can start a group. And they're designed so that you don't stay in the group that you're in. That's going to happen somewhat naturally, and you can certainly do that. But this is your opportunity to step outside of whatever area it is that you were hired to work on, so you can better understand the enterprise. You can better understand what these different folks do, and it informs your work, because you can look at your little piece of it, but then you're always thinking about, oh yeah, that person in government affairs or whatever gave me this little nugget that I can put into this. And it's super valuable, and it can be virtual, it could be in office, you can kind of do anything. And the other thing that I forgot to mention is, usually when you're hired, you usually have like a helper or an ambassador that kind of helps you out in the beginning, just get to know the systems and the tools and processes and all those things. They're kind of like an extension of sort of like, that ambassadorship for the company. Sign yourself up once you've been there for a little while. Sign yourself up to be one of those.
Be one of them. Yeah.
I'm still friends with my little orientation buddy from my first job in San Francisco back in the day.
You never know who you're going to meet. I was in orientation with somebody. I had no idea who they were. We were just in a group setting of taking notes, and they had a cold, and they didn't have any tissues, and I gave them tissues. And it turned out to be like, this is a long, long time ago, but it turned out to be like a big executive in the company. And she remembered that. And it turned, she like included me on this really cool project, but she remembered that time that I helped her just with a tissue.
Oh my gosh.
You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who these folks are. You're just being a good person.
Yeah.
And that always goes a long way.
Open yourself up to it. Yeah.
Yeah. A reminder to be kind to everyone.
Always be kind.
Always be kind. When I was a receptionist at that job, and people would like, the higher ups would be like, okay, who's cool and who's not? Because like when you're in that position or being a waitress too, it's like you kind of know who's going to treat you like a little bit less than versus like a real member of the team. So you get to know people's true colors, right? But
and you never know. You
have a lot of power a lot of the time. You know?
Yeah, you could totally win them over by kindness. That's something that's like super valuable too. Like the difference between being nice and kind is something that we talked about quite a bit at Visa, where sometimes even with feedback, like if you're going to give somebody some honest feedback that they may not find so great, if you do it in a way like, I'm doing this to help you because I care about you and I think you're great, this isn't working and here's why, and just being really upfront about it, then that's when you're building the respect. It's like having something in your teeth, like I would expect somebody to tell me whether I have something in my teeth or not.
Yes.
That just shows that like, I would want somebody to do that for me.
Yes. Take the hit, do the uncomfortable thing, right?
Because you're doing it, it's coming from the right place. You're not being a jerk about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I like that you have that baked into your SWAN, hiring practices. So the end of SWAN is nice, right? So it's like you can have all these other skills, this, the skill set, the ambition, the beautiful pedigreed resume. But if they're an asshole at the end of the day and nobody wants to work with them, it's for naught, right?
Right. And here's another thing. Like I didn't come up with SWANs, but I adopted it. And that's the same thing with everything. Like if you see something that you like and you want to take and be part of like what you do, then go for it and attribute it to that somebody, whoever invented that. The whole idea is for it to proliferate and become more a part of the ethos and the culture of the company that you work for. And so, we started putting SWANs into all the job descriptions at Visa because we wanted to make sure that they knew that this was a team sport and that we all work really hard together. And it was really important that you work as a team dynamic, that we look out for each other. We're not looking to set each other up to fail. We want everybody to succeed.
Yeah.
What they're doing.
Yeah.
Huge deal.
Jared, you got a shout out. Shout out to Jared for putting those virtual coffee chats into practice. We've never formally met, but he generously took the time to talk with me about what's happening in the industry and how to navigate a shift from design leadership to design ops. After I cold reached out on LinkedIn, I still appreciate the time. Thank you for all this great conversation. Oh, kindness in action, Jared.
I got to make more time for it. I will be the first to admit I get light on time, but I want to bake in more time for virtual coffees and IRL coffees. I love finding great coffee shops around New York. I'm still in there, once or twice a week, even though I live a little bit out of town. So in-person coffees too. I'm working on it. I think we all got to make time for that stuff, don't we?
You're inspiring me, Jared. I should come down like a day early when I go to the city and just do coffee chats all day long. Cool.
It's the best.
Book,
It's the best. Yep. Cool.
Well, we're at time. Louis, this has been such an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah.
I think I was honored to be invited, and thank you again. This was great.
Thank you for sharing. So many insights. Connect with Louis on LinkedIn. You've had an incredible career. The things that you've done, the spaces that you've navigated, that is such a unique experience that not many design leaders have ever had to operate at that kind of scale in those kind of environments. So I feel like we barely scratched the surface of some of the stories you could tell. I'm sure.
Lots of
part two, maybe someday.
Be honored to come back anytime. Reach out to me if you have any questions about anything that I said or any tips, because it's all about reciprocity.
Great. And this will be actually posted on LinkedIn as well. So if you have questions, you can certainly ask Louis on LinkedIn directly. You can also ask them on the chat too. Just tag him so he can see them. And Yeah, thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.